Welcome, everybody, to this Whole Life Action Hour. I am Ocean Robbins, your host, and we are here today to talk about water. One of my favorite topics, not just because of my name, but also because water is so important. So, are you drinking enough water? Not just to quench your thirst, but to elevate your health optimally and to energize your life. In this action hour, we're going to explore the critical importance of water and hydration and look at different ways to hydrate, how much to hydrate, what hydration does in your body, why it's so important, and also answer a bunch of questions. And to be super clear, this is a project of Whole Life Club, which is Food Revolution Network's ongoing membership community. And some of the questions I'll be bringing to this interview come from our Whole Life Club members. Nothing you hear today is medical advice. We're going to be offering coaching and our own best insights, but always consult with a qualified healthcare professional about your specific healthcare realities and needs. Now, I have the incredible pleasure of introducing our guest today, Dr. Ritamarie Loscalzo. She is an internationally recognized nutrition and functional health authority, a certified clinical nutritionist, a trained herbalist, and a best-selling author and speaker. Ritamarie is the founder of the Institute of Nutritional Endocrinology, a doctor of chiropractic with certifications in acupuncture and clinical nutrition, and she's a diplomat of the American Clinical Board of Nutrition. Dr. Ritamarie combines the best of conventional and complementary healthcare approaches, and she offers wildly popular courses on metabolic health, digestion, hormonal balance, dispelling brain fog and belly fat, and other critical health topics. Dr. Ritamarie is committed to transforming our current disease-focused medical system that tries to keep people alive, often addicted to drugs that they take for the rest of their lives, and focus instead on a real healthcare system where we can actually be well and thrive. Ritamarie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ocean. I really appreciate being here and being able to chat with you and share with the audience, some insights and some wisdom from the many years of experience here.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to focus today on water because, it's so important to every cell in our body. So first of all, at a high level, why is water critical to our bodily functions and overall health?
Well, first of all, our body is 75% water, right? And our blood is water that carries all the nutrients and things and takes away toxins from the cells. And one other reason is the solution to pollution is dilution. So we live in a toxic soup of an environment. A lot of folks are eating foods that are, even when we're trying really hard to eat all organic and clean foods, we're getting toxins in our system, and our body has to be able to take and process them and dilute them and expel them. So, and the kidneys need water. The kidneys help keep the blood clean. It filters water. The brain needs water. So we need water to function. Every cell in our body needs water. Without it, we shrivel up and die.
Yes, thank you. All right. So how does someone know if they're not getting enough? We think about dehydration. What are the key signs of that? And then beyond that, is it better to not get dehydrated? Is there an optimal amount of water that's more than just enough?
Yeah, that's a great question. So dehydration, shriveling up, right? So if you're starting to feel like everything feels dry, your mouth feels dry, your eyes feel dry, that's a sign that you've gone pretty far into a dehydration mode, right? So we see, obviously as we age, the skin gets a little bit more shrivelly and all that. But if you're 25 years old and you're starting to see, shriveled up face and hands and all that, there's probably dehydration. But the other pieces are focus, right? When we get dehydrated, we can't focus very well. One of the early signs of dehydration is being, confused and disoriented. And so our brains need it to function. And that's another sign, low energy. So there's just a lot, and feeling thirsty, obviously, but you know what? Most people they don't pay attention. And most times by the time we feel very thirsty, we are already needing a lot more water than that. So I'm more of a fan of consistently supplying water throughout the day, whether it be in water or, herbal tea, or in very highly hydrated foods, like the fruits and vegetables.
So you don't really want to wait until there's an acute yellow light going off saying I'm thirsty over here. That's enough to get our attention in the midst of our busy
Right.
day. You kind of want to front load it and just get on the cycle of drinking water as a habit, right?
As a habit.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And can you talk a little bit about hydration and metabolism? How does water intake impact weight management and satiety?
There's so many ways, right? So a lot of times when we feel hungry or think we feel hungry, it's actually thirst. So when people are trying to get their weight under control, I always tell them, you feel hungry, stop, drink some water, wait a half an hour. If you're still hungry, maybe it is hunger. So we need that as a satiation point, and it fills the stomach. So the stomach feels, the receptors in the stomach feel full, and they don't quite as um, cry out for food. But the other thing is that we need the water, we need the hydration in our tissues, in our cells, to keep our body balanced, to keep the hormones pumping out, to keep nutrients flowing to all the organs and glands in the body. So all of that affects metabolism, affects the thyroid, affects the insulin receptors. It affects the pancreas and secreting insulin and all the hormones. So we really need all that to keep us healthy and vibrant.
Yes, thank you. Let's talk about how much water we need. And let me be clear for everyone who isn't clear. When we say water, we're talking about the actual compound water, which can come along with other things. Like if you're drinking tea, you're getting water plus a bit of whatever is in the tea, right? If you're drinking, fruit juice, you're getting water plus the sugars and so forth that came with that fruit. If you're drinking Coca-Cola, you're drinking water along with a bunch of other stuff that comes with a Coca-Cola, right? So,
Right.
so all of these have pros and cons. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But at a basic level, the fluid of water, which you also get, as you mentioned, from vegetables, from cooked grains and legumes, there's water in there too. Obviously, there's water in lots of foods. There's not, interestingly, much, if any, water in meat. But there is water in pretty much all plant foods, unless they're like a flour or something. But how much water do we need? And how is it? How can one assess that? Because of different dynamics of activity level, climate,
Great question.
life stage. What other things should factor into that for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we think about water, we hear the 8 ounce glasses a day. So if you're 5'4" and you weigh 120 pounds, do you think you need the same amount of water as somebody who is, 6'2" and weighs 220 pounds?
And runs a marathon that
And,
day.
and runs a marathon that day, right? So it's
Right.
obviously there's no one size fits all. I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of there's no one size fits all. A good rule of thumb, which can be modified, but half your body weight in fluid ounces is a good starting point. Plus, if you're in a hot environment, if you're working out, every 15 minutes of sweating may require you to have 8 more ounces. Again, guideline, it's not gospel. But sometimes people think more is better, right? This is the way our society tends to be. So I have this person came in once and she weighed maybe 98 pounds, was 4'11", and was taking the water thing seriously. And she was drinking like a gallon of water a day. And she was wondering why, she was eating well, but why were her nutrients so low? Why was her B12 status low? Why was this low, that low? Well, she was over drinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you cause an excretion of some of the minerals, you cause electrolyte imbalances, you cause all kinds of problems if you overhydrate. So we have to just take it with a grain of salt. If you're an athlete and you're working out, you're sweating, you need a whole lot more water than somebody sitting on the TV. And the biggest exercise they do is hitting the remote button, right? They're not going to sweat much hitting that remote button unless you're sitting in the sauna and watching TV, right? If you're in a sauna, if you're taking, that as a therapeutic aid, that's going to require you to have more water. So we just use that as a guideline. You shouldn't go less than that. Honestly, we really shouldn't go less than that unless you're doing, some kind of juice cleanse and you're drinking vegetable juices all day long. But I do want to address what you mentioned earlier about the fluids, right? So some fluids that are flavored, fine, no problem, right? So herbal teas, right? Mint tea, hibiscus tea, whatever. They might actually have some extra nutrients that they're providing in the water, no problem. But alcohol, have a beer, 8 ounces. You need another 8 ounces to supply the diuretic effect that the beer has. So alcohol causes you to excrete more water, actually about the same or maybe even more water than you took in. So
Mm-hmm.
that's an important piece. Caffeine is a diuretic. So if you're drinking coffee, black coffee, people say, oh, I just drink my black coffee in the morning. That's going to dehydrate you rather than rehydrate you. So we have
Mm-hmm.
to keep those things in mind as well. Fruit juices, it's a high osmotic value. So, and sugar. So sugar requires us to have more water and we really want to dilute it. So really drinking fruit juices, undiluted fruit juice is probably not a good idea, especially if you have metabolic imbalances. We should be getting the whole fruit, which is loaded with fluid, which is loaded with water, but it's also a really great source of all the fiber and the nutrients and everything else. When you juice things, you lose the fiber and you get this huge influx of that sugar into the blood, and that throws off your blood sugar and can lead to metabolic disorders.
Yeah, thank you for that. So now, what are some of the pros and cons of different water filtration methods? Do you have a general recommendation, or depending on people are on well water or city water? Like, what are some things to think about with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And nobody should be drinking city water, period, done, case closed. Because it's loaded with, they put chlorine in it and they put all kinds of stuff to kill off bad stuff. So we don't know what's in it. Well
And
water,
can I just spell out that out for 1 second? I just want
yes,
to make sure people are clear on this point. There are valid reasons why chlorine is added to city water because we don't want pathogenic bacteria
exactly.
that could kill a lot of people. So it's getting it to a baseline level where you're not going to keel over and die if you drink it, which is good.
Right,
And not every country in the world has that, by the way, safe city
right,
water that won't kill you. But
right,
in the
right.
US and many developed countries, we do. And so that's the baseline, is just the most basic baseline of water is that if you drink it, you won't get a stomach issue and die, right? But
Exactly.
but unfortunately, in order to get to that baseline, they have to add chlorine and other things to the water,
Mhm.
which can also be over time carcinogenic or cause other health problems, as well as tasting bad. So anyway,
Yes,
just wanted to
exactly.
make that clear. But the good
Yeah,
news is you can take, if you are on city water that's chlorinated, you can take it and filter it and get a cleaner product, which
exactly.
is lovely and easier, perhaps even than if you're on a well and you have to first sterilize it.
Right, right. And with the wells, you really want to test it. You want to have somebody, a professional testing, because it's coming from the ground. And if you don't know what's in your ground, what's in your groundwater in terms of heavy metals, in terms of prescription drugs from the runoff from somebody else's, land, all kinds of things can be in that well water. So if you are on well water, it could be great, but you want to test it and make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Even spring water can awesome, but what's upstream of the spring and what's
Mm-hmm.
getting into the water and what kind of waste products might be getting in there. So I think that's important. But I think having a home filtration unit is helpful. I did all my research on home filtration units and, published it on my website long, long time ago when I moved into my house, like 25 years ago here. So we decided to use reverse osmosis for our drinking water. We
Yeah.
also have a whole house filter to filter out the big stuff, the chlorine and all that, because we had little kids and we didn't want to bathe our kids in chlorinated water. And in fact, we have a swimming pool and we have a swimming pool test kit. So I just got curious as to how much chlorine was actually in my tap water, and it was more than in my swimming pool. And then I was like, oh my God. And yet we are conservative, so we kept our swimming pool lower than maybe the average public pool, which is, dealing with hundreds of people every day. But that was scary to me.
Yeah.
So we put a whole house filter
Side
on.
note, just in case anyone's wondering how that's possible when the pool is filled with tap water, it's because the chlorine will off gas when it sits there for a while. But
Exactly.
tap water hasn't had a chance to off gas.
Right.
Anyway, carry on.
Right. Right. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. So what do I personally like having a whole house filter and then having the reverse osmosis, but it's a reverse osmosis that has like double, I can't remember if it's double filtration before it goes through the osmosis or double after, but it's 3 levels of filtration on top of the reverse osmosis. In the olden days, I hesitated to do that and I actually purchased a distiller. But the reason that I didn't want to do reverse osmosis because there was a lot of waste. So for every
Yeah.
gallon of water that you would purify, there was 9 gallons that would be wasted. But the recent even over the last 25 years, they're improved. So it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
So it takes out most of the stuff that you want out. A lot of people get the sit on the counter Brita filters or other filters like that. And there's been some, yes, no, maybe. There's a lot of those. I haven't researched all of those, but it's better than nothing. So when my kids went off to college, we're living in a dorm, we bought them a Brita filter to take to college with them so that at least they weren't drinking the tap water.
Yeah, thank you. One note of caution for people who are using carbon filters is to make sure they're changing the cartridges as recommended, because it can actually become worse than tap water if it starts to saturate with all the bad stuff and or breed bacteria over time. So make sure you're following those recommendations. We did an article. If you go to foodrevolution.org/water, you can find it that gives an overview of some of the different water filtration methods and pros and cons. And then there's one brand, AquaTrue, that we like that, that has a home RO system that's nice. It's not, I think they actually do have an under sink tap thing now, but the main thing they sell is a on the counter version that doesn't even have to be plumbed.
Be installed.
Which is convenient.
Which is convenient if you're in an apartment.
Right. And it doesn't waste nearly as much water. There's pros and cons to every system. I think, with reverse osmosis and distillation, some people are worried that you're losing minerals. Of course, they're very pure forms of water, which means they're getting rid of a lot of stuff. So you really just have the water left, but they also take out minerals. And so some people say, okay, do we need to add minerals to our water or, some other way to address that? Is that a concern?
To me, it's not a concern because I feel like I'm getting those minerals in my food. I eat a whole food plant-based diet. I eat very mineral-rich foods. So I'm not concerned. My water I drink for H2O water, right? I'm not drinking the water for minerals. Now, if people are concerned or they're on a less optimal diet and they're not on a mineral-rich diet, then, putting minerals back into the water can be super helpful. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Thank you. And what about electrolytes? You mentioned earlier what can happen if people drink too much water and they don't get their electrolyte balance maintained. Is that a concern? Is it actually better to consume water that also comes with electrolytes? What are electrolytes?
Yeah. So electrolytes are minerals, specific minerals that help with the conduction of the cells, right? So magnesium and potassium and chloride, and sometimes zinc is included in there, although it's not technically an electrolyte. But if you're an athlete, if you're going out and you're sweating and you're training for a marathon, half marathon, that I think electrolyte replacement is helpful, very helpful. But for the average person, unless you've got a specific condition, a health condition where you are low in some of these, and it's an easy test to do. It probably costs $2 to get an electrolyte blood test done and see what your levels are. And if you are low, then you supplement with an electrolyte thing. Foods. When my kids were little, I think twice in their whole lives, they threw up. And they were like, one of those kind of things. And I'm like, oh, I need to replace their electrolytes. So what did I do? I juiced celery and plums or celery and apples, and I replenished their fluids that way. So whole foods provide so much of that you don't necessarily need to go out and buy a package of electrolytes. I'm not anti-supplement. I mean, certainly, promote or not promote necessarily, but support judicious use of supplementation. But I'm always hesitant to buy something that's been processed through a factory and isolated and put into a jar if I can have the alternative. Now, if I'm traveling, I'm not going to bring my juicer along with me. So I'm not necessarily going to juice celery. But these days you can even get that. Vegetable juices are not uncommon now in our times. 25 years ago, they were very uncommon. But so you can do that through vegetable juices are a great way. Vegetable broths are an amazing way to replenish your electrolytes. So it depends on how much work you want to do too.
So you're not a fan of Gatorade?
Oh my God, Gatorade. That's garbage, right? There's some good electrolytes out there, but that's loaded with sugar, right? And that's what you need a little, if you are depleted, right? If you have had a vomiting episode or you've been exercising heavily, you do need some sweetness in there, but not sugar. And the color, like, do have a look at those aren't natural colors that come in nature. Those are food colorings, right? So you don't
Yeah.
want Gatorade, but if you get a good high quality electrolyte, or the juicing is an
Right.
amazing way, or broths, making vegetable broths.
Yeah. Thank you. What about coconut water?
Coconut water is a great electrolyte. For some folks, it is high glycemic, so it'll shoot their sugars up. So I would
Mhm.
just check and make sure it doesn't cause your sugars to drop. If you're diabetic, be careful. But coconut water is loaded with electrolytes. Seawater is loaded with electrolytes, but nobody's going to sit and drink seawater. But putting a few drops of a concentrated seawater into your water will give you a lot of electrolytes. But coconut water is awesome. Although you watch it, if it's just this pasteurized stuff that has additives and mono and diglycerides and all kinds of stuff, then probably not your best choice. But there's a lot of them out there now that are just pure coconut water, or you buy a coconut and pour the water off, and it's delicious and very hydrating.
How do you think about the pros and cons of consuming water versus consuming a sugar-free beverage that has added value, such as, hibiscus tea, which I'm drinking here right now
Mm,
today, or, green tea for that matter, if someone does tolerate the caffeine, okay. We see
yeah,
the research showing that there's
yeah,
benefits, um, of loaded antioxidants and so forth, but,
yeah.
but is it important to also get pure water sometimes?
That's a good question. And I'm not really sure anybody knows the answer to that. I think hibiscus tea is an amazing beverage to drink because hibiscus is one of the herbs that is loaded with vitamin C and all kinds of minerals. It's just really, really healthy and full of antioxidants. So it can be great. Is there taking away from? I don't think so. I think if you're going to drink hibiscus tea all day instead of water, I mean, is there the risk of getting too much hibiscus? I don't know. I've never really researched it because nobody's ever really gone to that point. But I think that's a good one to do it. And people ask, like, how do I get water? I don't like the taste of water because they're used to
Mhm.
Pepsi and Coke and fruit juices and whatnot. I find that if you put a drop of an edible essential oil, like a lemon oil or lime oil or any of them, there's a lot of them that are edible.
Mhm.
You find the ones you like, and you can make this really nice, just little hint of flavor to it, and tastes really good. But herbal teas can be so beneficial. I think, you can't overdo green tea because even though green tea in a cup has very little caffeine compared to coffee, you drink it all day long instead of water, you're going to get too much caffeine.
Right. Yeah. Um, I also will mention that some beverages have acidity to them, including hibiscus, and that can be bad for dental enamel. So there is some benefit perhaps to, if you're drinking hibiscus tea all day, do it in batches rather than sip, sip, sip through the day, and then swish with clean water right after to get
Yeah,
your mouth clean so you're not causing
yeah,
dental
that's a good
problems
point.
down the
Definitely
road.
a good point.
Um,
But,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Great feedback there. Now, what are some habits people can get into for healthy hydration to help make it happen? Any specific recommendations?
Yes, actually, I do. So I recommend people calculate based on that formula, your half your body weight in fluid ounces and then extra for your sweating, and then get some jars and fill them up at the beginning of the day as to how much water you should be doing. And then wherever you are, if you work at home and you have a computer and then maybe you go to the kitchen, you can just keep it in view so you remember and you can see, oh, I need to drink that much more water today, like that, right? Or you can measure it out into a big jug, right? And put that out. And so you just keep pouring it into your smaller jugs throughout the day. You can, if it's the winter, for me in the winter time, I like to do hot water. So I have a little hot water thing, a stainless steel inside hot water dispenser, and it keeps it hot all day. And I can just pour it in and I'll drink ginger tea or lemon tea or whatever it is. And that gives me my hydration throughout the day. And that makes it easier and more fun.
Fabulous. Thank you. All right. Well, let's jump to some of our questions from Whole Life Club
Mhm.
members. Diane said, I have an under sink RO system and add mineral drops to my water. We already talked a little bit about those
Right.
dynamics. She said you can smell the chlorine in the top water as it comes out of the faucet. And she's asking, what about shower water or just washing face and hands?
Yeah.
what whole house water system is best and most affordable, and also are the salt systems bad for you?
I don't know about the salt systems being bad for you. It does make your skin feel nice and soft and all that. The salt water systems, the softeners.
Mhm.
I think that you can do a whole house filter. I don't know the pricing these days. I know that when we did it 25 years ago, and we've had the same one ever since, and we just change the filters out every year. Um, it was somewhere in the $1,000 range installed. It might be less these days because some things have gone down. It might be more. I don't know. But that would be installed. Usually it's on the outside of your house and it gets the water as it comes in. So all your faucets, your bathtubs, your showers. If you don't want to go through the expense of a whole house filter, you can get individual shower filters for your individual showers. But then you're not covered for like washing your face and brushing your teeth. And you can keep a jug of water, a jug of purified water in there for brushing your teeth. When I made the decision to do the whole house filter, I had little boys, little boys, and they took a
Yeah.
lot of baths. And my thought was, okay, if I'm going to give them a bath, I'm going to have to fill the bath from the shower, which could be very inconvenient and messy. So that's when I decided to get it on the whole house.
Okay, well, now I actually want to ask you another question that just popped up for me, which is carbonation. What do you think about carbonated water? And of course, you can get bottles of carbonated water in plastic, which is a form of bottled water. But some people
Yeah.
also get home carbonators there where
Yeah.
they, have a canister of carbon dioxide and that
Yeah.
just gets added to the water to make it fizzy. For some people, it's a lot more enjoyable that way. But do you think there's any
Yeah.
downside?
I've read some stuff over the years about a downside being that it makes the water more acidic. And I don't know, I haven't verified if that's actually true, but I know that it really does help people to drink. I think they do need to drink some plain water that's not
Hmm.
carbonated. And I'll enjoy a carbonated water beverage every now and then. I usually don't like the fizziness, but I will do it and enjoy it sometimes. So it's nice for that. Downsides, you know, some people are sensitive to it. The gas irritates their esophagus as it's going down.
Hmm.
Some say it can cause more burping. If you have a tendency to burp, it'll cause more gas to build up in your stomach, and then you'll have more burping happening. So I think it's like anything else, it's an individual basis. I don't have any adamant, like absolutely no, like Gatorade. I was pretty strong on Gatorade, right? No Gatorade. But I think that actually the carbonation units, that was one thing for my son who really wanted to be able to carbonate his water. And, it's expensive to buy bottled water in glass because we wanted it to be in glass. But
Yeah,
so we did that. But yeah, I don't have any adamant research that says no, it's not good for you
got it.
unless
Thank
it's
you.
unless it's tap water that's been bought. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
If
if
it's
it's just tap
chlorinated, then
water
you've
and
got a whole
carbonated
other
and chlorinated,
equation. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Chris asked, do demulcent herbs help keep our bodies hydrated? I make a quart-sized overnight infusion of oat straw and a tiny bit of licorice root and sip on that all day. Seems to help motivate me to drink more water.
Yeah. I mean, demulcent herbs suck up water. They're very hydrating and they're very good for your mucous membranes. So I don't see any reason for that. And I think it is definitely a benefit.
Thank you. De Niro asked, what are your thoughts on hydrogen water? And is it really necessary for if you're eating a whole foods plant-based diet? Also asked, do beans produce hydrogen gas? And other questions that we've already discussed, so I won't cover those.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't done a lot of research on hydrogen water. Some people swear by it and said it gives them more energy and more stamina and all that. I know that you wrote an article on it. It's on your blog, so you may want to reference people to that. When you're eating, here's my feeling about all these, like the water culture and it's expensive, first of all, to go
Mm-hmm.
out and buy all these things. Although this thing, I think you can get a little container and then refill. But do you need it if you're eating a whole foods plant-based diet, if you're taking care of your stress levels and sleeping enough? Do you need these extra goodies? Do you need these extra expenses in your life? And probably not, but there may be some specific reasons that you do. You're cleansing, you're detoxing, you're needing to have some extra help. There is some evidence that there's benefit to putting hydrogen in the water.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, there is an article. If you go to foodrevolution.org and type hydrogen, you'll find it.
Mhm.
Which, based on the research I've seen, there is some benefit to hydrogen
Mhm.
water for anti-inflammatory purposes, and at the same time, a good system could cost a couple $1,000s, and if that's outside your price range, drink water. Good clean
Drink water,
water
eat real
and
food.
do what you can afford and eat real food, right? You can bring
Yeah.
down inflammation a lot of different ways. I think that, and then by the way, I don't know if anybody asked about alkaline water systems, but just a note of caution there. I haven't been impressed with the research on that, and it seems that because our stomachs are so acidic, um, nothing alkaline about water is going to actually change your body's pH, and nor should it, because your blood pH is set at a set point, which is optimal for human survival. And you wouldn't actually want to change that, and your body will do what it needs to maintain that. So
Yeah.
that whole approach is probably not, again, worth the $2,000 investment.
Yeah. Yeah, they're expensive. And, one thing people would want to be cautioned about is if you are drinking alkaline water, don't do it with a meal because you're going to try to counteract what your body's trying to make the stomach more acidic to be able to digest your meal. So that's a caution as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of which, a lot of people customarily do drink water with their meals. Do you have concern about dilution, or is that irrelevant? Because we eat soup, right? That's diluted
Right. We
food, and
eat
that's
high water
fine, right?
content
So
food.
is that just a kind of a myth that that's a
I
problem?
think there's some truth to the fact that you don't want to sit and drink a quart of water with your meal. But if you're eating a lot of dry type foods, you're eating crackers, you're eating a grain dish that doesn't have a lot of liquid in it, then you might need that water to help
Mhm.
you with your digestion. The recommendation is usually, drink your water half an hour before or an hour after your meal. I'm not that picky about that sort of stuff. But
Mhm.
again, you see how you feel. If you feel better with drinking water with the meal, if it curbs your appetite more, then by all means do it. If you feel worse, if you feel like bloated, if you feel like you're gassy after a meal, or you're not digesting your food real well, it's possible that it could be diluting, especially if somebody who has already compromised digestion.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Colleen asked what a lot of people were asking, which is, again, if you're using reverse osmosis water and you're drinking a lot of it, is it good to add minerals back in? I think you're really saying essentially no, get your minerals from food. But is
Yeah,
that
but if
true?
yeah, I would say it can't hurt necessarily. Depends on what you're adding back. If you're adding a whole ton of sodium and you're disrupting the sodium chloride potassium ratios, then that wouldn't be good. There are specific mineral drops you can add. Do we need it though? Do we need that extra expense? Not necessarily, but some people might.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. Mel is a holistic practitioner who said that she struggles with flavor because she finds plain water boring. She loves drinking decaf coffee, 3 cups a day of that, and one flavored tea that she likes, but she's looking for new suggestions for how to spice up, so to speak, her water. We've touched on
Yeah,
this a little
we
bit, but
touched
let's just
on it
cover a
earlier.
summary again of some of the
Yeah.
key thoughts.
Yes, I will. So here's the thing with the decaf tea, coffee. You think, well, is it water processed? Because otherwise it's chemically processed and you're adding some extra stuff to it. It's decaffeinated. It's not 100% decaffeinated. So if your body is sensitive to caffeine, you're still going to have a little bit in there. But it's acidic. There's a lot of tannins in there. So that might be too much acidity to maintain your body in an alkaline healing type state for too long. So if you want to have something to switch it up, I would say get some essential oils and add a little bit of essential oil to your meal. And then teas. If there's not any that you really like, then that's fine. Don't do herbal teas like Ocean is doing hibiscus tea, which some people find delightful and some people don't. I like mint and ginger. But I would say try the essential oils for a little bit of flavor.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah.
Quick note on mint and ginger. Fresh is totally different than dried or powdered,
Yeah.
or so that's another thing to consider. Most people can grow a mint patch. It's an incredibly prolific and hardy
Yes.
plant. that will come back 10 times bigger the next year when you use it. So we
Right.
have a mint patch that's almost invasive in our garden, but it certainly
Wow.
means we've got mint all the time. And it's so
That's
lovely to have
lovely.
that fresh flavor,
Oh, it's
ginger root
great.
as well. Yeah, so those can be fun. We have a question from Maria asking about distilled water and saying, does it leach minerals from your bones?
You know what leaches minerals from your bones? Coca-Cola. Too much meat, the things that have too much phosphorus in them compared to calcium, things that are acid forming. So drinking too much coffee, even decaf coffee, that acidity will then cause the body to try to balance it. Cause like Ocean said earlier, we maintain a specific pH in our blood and our body will keep it there at all costs. Like if you go more than, you know, zero point 0.1 off of that, you're in a very tragic state. So I would say those are the things that are going to leach the minerals from your bones. I don't know that distilled water has any ability to leach minerals from your bones.
Thank you. Valerie said, years ago, I challenged my doctor to give me 90 days drinking water as my only beverage, except black coffee in the morning, to lower my dangerously high blood pressure. If it didn't work, I would take the pills he was prescribing. It worked. It also
Nice.
changed my life because I felt so much better. I used this trial to quit alcohol use and to eat more healthy foods. My eyesight also got better. Could this be due to the water intake?
Yeah. Yeah, your eyes, they need water to be, if you're dehydrated, that's one of the things. Remember, we talked earlier about dehydration. Blurry vision is very common in early stages of dehydration. The eyes need fluid. You think about what the eyes are. If you actually see what an eyeball looks like, there's a lot of liquid in there. So, yes, hydrating your eyes, drinking lots of water has profound effects, especially quitting the other stuff that was you were doing instead of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, it's a twofer. You're getting the water and you're also not getting whatever you were consuming
Exactly.
before that,
Yes.
which could have been negative. So
Yeah.
awesome that you're getting those results. Anna said, I have
Yeah.
spring water delivered to my house in big plastic jugs. Then I dispense it through a top load water dispenser, the kind of water fountain you see in an office. Is this the cleanest and best source of water?
It's a decent source of water. I wouldn't say it's the cleanest and the best source. I mean, it's in plastic. So, when it depends on how hot your environment is and how hot the environment is when it was transported, because the plastic, when it's hot, leaches chemicals into it. And there's like BPA free, and most of them are BPA free these days, but there are other chemicals in the plastic that can be leached into the water. So I'd be careful about that. Is it a good source of water? Is it better than drinking just tap water? Absolutely. Right. And it's always good, better, best. We can't always do our best. The best would be to have a spring in your backyard that you've tested and it's clean and you just get the water from your backyard spring, right? I don't know anybody that has that ability, right, these days.
Yeah, thank you. Naomi said, filtered water versus tap water. Is there really a significant difference? Does it matter where in the world you live? And
Yeah.
specifically, um, how important is it that we filter our water for meal preparation? I think we've already
I
somewhat
think we covered that.
addressed this. Meal preparation, it's sort of, you're still consuming it into your body, so
Right.
it doesn't really matter all that much whether you're drinking it straight or using it in food.
Exactly.
Obviously, if you're like boiling pasta, you're using less of it will be absorbed because a lot
Right.
of it gets poured
That's
off.
thrown away. Yeah.
Um, so, if you're in a situation where you have a limited amount of filtration capacity or
Exactly.
using bottled water, then you probably don't want to use it for your pasta. But, you know,
Right.
um, but those are all different factors, I would say.
Yeah.
We did hear from Evelyn asking about what are the things you most want to worry about filtering. So PFAs, is there a way to get them out of water? What are the other compounds that you most want to be looking out for that are often in water?
Heavy metals is a biggie, right? So
Yeah.
chlorine I would consider chlorine among a heavy metal. So the metals, I would say any of those, the industrial waste products, right, that get in there. There's some question about which types of filters filter more efficiently for some of those things. You
Mhm.
certainly want to filter out your neighbor's Prozac or other drugs that might be in the groundwater as a result of that. And we know that, when we look at water, and tested, a lot of things are in the water, chemicals from the nearby factory, but also, chemicals from the nearby neighbor who's taking medications, and it goes into the waste and then gets filtered into the water system. So there's just, I would say, you want to get a filter within your budget, the best filter you can get within your budget that filters the most things.
Yeah, thank you. We heard from Anna, who asked, does adding a tiny bit of sea salt or Himalayan salt to water make it more healthy? I've heard it increases the absorption.
I don't know about it increasing the absorption. I think it depends on the person. I think that, like, if people are under a lot of stress and their adrenal glands are just pumping out lots of cortisol, we tend to lose more sodium in the urine. And so replenishing it with a little bit of sea salt can be very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Karen said, for the last 3 days, I've been drinking water according to the formula of 35 milliliters per kilo of body weight. It's a lot. I don't usually drink any water, so this inundation is a real shock to the system. There have been some unexpected positive results, but being woken 4 times a night is taking the joy out of my days. When I was doing my science degree, we did an experiment with water consumption and urination. It ended up being approximately 1 milliliter per minute expelled. Do I load water during the day only, or is there another way?
Oh boy, I don't know. I'm a good old girl from the U.S. and all we know about is quarts and ounces and cups and all that. So I don't know what even that converts to in my language. It's like you just spoke Greek to me and I don't know Greek, but I don't know how much that actually is. But the question really is, you shouldn't be drinking so much water that you're waking up 4 times a night, because it's interfering with your sleep, and sleep is critical for good health, right? So I would say front load, drink earlier, and then find a time, play with it yourself, right? We always have to experiment and find the time after which you wake up less during the night to urinate.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that I don't really want to drink much after 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, a sip or two of something, but like, I'm not really going to be drinking after 6, because if I do, fine in the evening, but then I will be up in the night at least once, maybe twice,
Right.
having to urinate, and I'd rather sleep straight through if I can,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mary said, what does the presenter think of drinking water mixed with gel made from Irish sea moss to assist in hydration?
Mm.
And also, what about adding a teaspoon of food-grade diatomaceous earth to water for its silica content?
Okay, so there's a couple of questions here, and you don't want to do this to all your water. So Irish sea moss, great. It's a great demulcent. It's loaded with nutrients. It actually has been shown to have positive effects on sex hormones. So there's a lot of benefits to it. Do you want to replace or put it in all of your water? Probably not. It would be like a beverage that you would choose to have, like same way you might have an iced tea or whatever. You would have a beverage with the Irish sea moss in it. You might have a beverage with some spirulina added to it or something else to give you the good nutrients at the same time as hydrating and all that. So I wouldn't say it's good to put anything in your water, to replace your water with something all the time. What was the second one? It was the Irish moss and
Irish sea moss, and it was also diatomaceous earth.
Oh, diatomaceous earth. You got to be careful with diatomaceous earth. It does have a lot of silica. It's also very coarse. And a lot of times people use it to get rid of parasites because it breaks the parasites' bodies. But it can also be too harsh on your digestive tract. So I would say, having that occasionally might be just fine, but I wouldn't put it in all your water. No.
Gotcha. Thank you. We have a question from Irvin, who said, I noticed my fasting blood pressure is slightly elevated in the morning before breakfast, but after I eat and hydrate, it eventually normalizes within a few hours. Is this overnight elevation due to not being hydrated while sleeping?
It can be. I don't know enough about you personally and your health and all kinds of things like that. What I would do for you, if I were you, is I would measure my blood pressure before going to sleep and compare the two and find out, is it going up overnight or is it high before you go to bed and something during the day. It might be something in your dinner. It might be some stress that you had by watching the evening news. There's so many things that could cause your blood pressure to go up, and it could be hydration. So I would look at all those factors.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Naomi said, I've heard previously that room temperature water is better than cold. Is that a myth or true?
That is very commonly believed in Chinese medicine, right? So what we want to do is not inundate the system with some water that's so much different from our body at this point. So cold beverages, we have a tendency, it's summertime, it's, drinking a lot of iced beverages. Well, that will cool down the internal temperature of the body and possibly interfere with digestion. Overly hot beverages, oftentimes they can overheat a person. So, that's a Chinese medicine philosophy. And most of what I drink is room temperature water. But let me tell you, sometimes when I'm out there and I'm sweating up a storm and it's hot outside, I live in Austin, Texas, where it gets to be 95 to 100 every day, then a cold beverage feels good. But that's not what I normally like. And the same thing in the winter. When it's chilly and my body's cold, the warm beverage can warm me up. So I don't
Yeah.
think there's any black or white. I think that you just find what works best for you. And if we get too fanatical about, oh, you got to do it this way, this way, this way, there's so many rules that we don't do anything. And that's not good. So you do the best, you make the best choice you can.
Thank you. Naomi also asked, is it good to drink a glass of water upon waking up first thing? I tend towards enjoying a morning coffee as a first beverage, but then only drink water for the rest of the day and evening. And I'd like to know if it's better if I have a glass of water before the coffee.
I think it's much better if you have the glass of water before the coffee for a couple of reasons. One, coffee can be dehydrated. It's diuretic. Overnight, you haven't had water for whatever it is. And having water to kind of flush out your system and start it up. Ideally, I like to do water with a little bit of lemon and maybe some peppermint oil or some lemon oil in it to just like kind of almost like cleanse the palate, but cleanse down the digestive tract. And a lot of people feel really good that way. It gets the gut working again. It just kind of wakes you up. So I think it would be better to do that.
Great, thank you. Well, those are all of our submitted questions. We've just
We got
barreled through
through them
them.
all. Holy
Any
cow.
other final thoughts you want to say on an ode to hydration?
An ode to hydration. Water, you can't live without it, right? It's one of those things that you need it to hydrate your cells. And you need, if you're somebody who's just eating whole fresh foods uncooked all day long with all that fresh water content in it, you're not going to drink as much or need as much as somebody who's, starting the day with toast and having sandwiches and, eating a lot of drier foods. Then they need to get their hydration from the water. So it just depends. You get, here, somebody who's out there who's a diehard raw foodist will say, well, I don't need to drink water. I get it in my food. Great. You might. Right. But we have to look at everything else in your life. Do you need minerals in your water? Well, if you're getting them from your food and you're eating tons of veggies and broths and things like that, probably not. So it's all unique. You are a unique person. The rules are kind of guidelines and there's no one size fits all.
One more question I just thought of that I'm surprised nobody asked. Urine color. Like, how important is that as a
Oh, that's a
gauge
great
for
question.
hydration, and what should we look for?
Yes. So when you first get up in the morning, it's going to be darker than it will be for the day, but it should be a amber, light amber, pale. If it's completely clear in the morning when it would be the most concentrated, then you probably are overhydrated. If it's really dark, then you're either very toxic or you're underhydrated. So it should be throughout the day, just a pale amber.
And I guess one caveat is if you consume B vitamin supplements, then you could have
There you go.
colored urine for other reasons, right?
It will be like, especially riboflavin, vitamin B2. It gives it like an iridescent orange color. And people freak out the first time they take something like that. They take B vitamins and then they go, oh my God, what's happening to me? That's normal.
Okay, got it. All right. Thank
Yeah.
you. Ritamarie Loscalzo, founder of the Institute for Nutritional Endocrinology and an absolutely brilliant mentor and source of wisdom and guidance for so many. And I will say, I often, when I know people who are struggling with complicated situations, they're eating whole foods, plant-based, they're exercising, they've got healthy relationships, they're getting good sleep, and they're still not feeling good, there's still something that's wrong or not working, I often send them to you, and years later they come back with testimonials telling me how it changed their life, because you really work with people on such a deep level to get their hormones and their blood sugar balance and their whole system working the way that it was designed to, which is sometimes takes some tweaking. So I just want to thank you so much for your thoughtful engagement, for your depth of wisdom, and for your leadership in the food revolution.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Ocean, and all the work that you're doing and all the people you're educating. It's just phenomenal.
Thank you.
When it comes to cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic illness, what really matters isn't how many books you read, how many webinars you attend, or how much you know. What really matters at the end of the day is what you eat and how you live. The science has given us what we need to know. Now it's time for action. It's time to implement and optimize your healthy lifestyle. It's time to get results. It's time to say goodbye to confusion and hello to clarity. It's time to say goodbye to bad habits and hello to good ones. It's time to fall in love with foods that love you back. It's time to join a community that will support you in achieving your goals. It's time for Whole Life Club.